The right to bear arms protects every other right. Unarmed people are easier to control, manipulate, and oppress. The founders understood the importance of the right to keep and bear arms as demonstrated by biblical principles, historical examples, and the English common law. Without the preservation of this right, a nation would easily succumb to tyranny. As long as this right is upheld, protected, and exercised lawfully, the torch of liberty may continue to burn. Welcome to Alliance Against Communism. Stopping anti-Western subversion. Stopping Marxism, stopping wokeism, stopping radical gender ideology, stopping foreign and domestic enemies of the United States of America, stopping critical race theory. The fight is on. We are not going to stand for this Marxist attack on this country. We are going to resist. We are going to fight back. You are not going to make us bow down. We will not submit. Our rights and responsibilities come from God. We bow down to nothing and to nobody but God himself. All right, in this segment, we're going to be talking about the gun red flag laws. And at first, I thought this was kind of bad, but I didn't really pay too much attention to it because, maybe it's not a bad thing to take guns away from people that want to kill, shoot up people, supposedly what the left says. But the more I study this, the more this could become extremely tyrannical and extreme infringement on our constitutional rights. And it basically is very, very dangerous. And we're going to go to show you how these gun red flag laws can be extremely dangerous.
Yeah, it's an inherent problem for sure.
It is definitely. And I don't believe for one second these leftists want to, do this for public safety. They want to do this for control, and they want to disarm us, period, because they are very afraid of us. Period. The conservatives.
Well, they don't want our best interests in mind. They want their best interests.
Absolutely. According from empowerwisconsin.org, the dangers of red flag laws, it says, once again, they are pushing so-called red flag laws, a direct violation of multiple constitutional rights that would allow the government to seize a person's property by force, following nothing more than an anonymous accusation. This fundamentally changes our system from innocent until proven guilty to guilty until proven innocent. It is fundamentally and unacceptably un-American, unquote.
I agree.
Now, taken from San Diego County gunowners.com, red flag laws, the most dangerous of gun control laws, it says, the most knowledgeable people, the people who pay attention, understand that gun control laws don't increase public safety or reduce crime. That's not the intent of the people that create them. Gun control is used primarily for political power and control. The end game is to completely disarm the American people. You can fill in for what reason.
Well, yeah, I think we talked about it the last podcast that if gun control laws actually worked, then Chicago would be Mayberry.
Exactly. So, and if you look at all the cities that have the strictest gun control laws and all across the United States, they are the places that have the most gun violence.
Isn't it? That's wild. That's just a crazy extreme concept. I mean, when you look at the safest communities are the communities that have guns. It's like that. I think we were talking about it last time where Antifa was talking about going to rural areas in the United States and messing with those communities. And the last thing that you want to do is mess with those communities because those communities are armed and somebody's going to get shot.
Well, the one thing I don't understand is these gun-free zones, like school zones that are a gun-free zone. That's just telling criminals that there's no gun here, come and shoot up this place.
Yeah, like the Boston bomber, the guy that blew up the Boston Marathon, he was actually going to attack an airport, and the airport was so heavily armed that he decided to try a different means.
So I don't understand. I saw this meme that says, that the British are coming, and then and the guy says, don't worry, this is a gun-free zone.
Yeah, right.
Like criminals respect gun-free zones. It's mind-boggling to me. It's just extremely mind-boggling. Anyway, so taken from this is taken from www.police1.com. Officer safety articles, opinions of the dangers posed by red flag laws, and this says number one. This means that the government is going to be really peeking into our lives by these gun red flag laws. We don't want that. Think about that. So let's say, like the government, like think about this. So people start making complaints about people, this person's dangerous, this person's dangerous. Now the government's going to start looking towards us.
Yeah.
That's just think about that. Their focus is going to be on us. That's the scary thing about it.
But what's completely insane about this is the fact that the person that is pointing their finger at you could be the problem to begin with.
Yeah, there's so many problems that begin with that.
Where to even begin with? I can't wrap my head around it, but I get it because I'm looking at it rationally, and you already said it, that it isn't about protecting the American people, protecting society. It's about control. It's about taking the guns away. And any excuse that they can find to take your guns away, they're going to use that excuse.
Absolutely agree. Number 2, it says the risk of seizure. This means the SWAT team is going to go and come take your guns away. Going to seize somebody's guns, basically going to seize citizens' guns is what resulted in the shot that heard around the world at Concord Bridge, Massachusetts in 1775, resulting in the birth of a new nation. So that when the British came for our guns, that's what started the war. Yeah. Right, and that was the shot that was heard all around the world. So, having a SWAT team come for Americans' guns is a major problem in itself. Just think about that for a second. That the government's going to start spying on its citizens, and then it's going to come, and when they decide to take your guns away, they're going to send a SWAT team to your house to take it away. Think about that for a second. That's crazy. Okay, number 3, it is un-American. Our legal system operates on the principle that all parties are innocent until proven guilty. But under red flag laws, the accused are assumed to be guilty from the start and are required to prove their innocence. Worse yet, there is no requirement for compelling evidence before charges are levied. A mere accusation, even unsubstantiated, is enough to trigger the suspension of fundamental civil rights. Number 4, the natural alliance between lawfully armed citizens and the police could be irreparably damaged by red flag laws, gun red flag laws. When the public believes the justice system is casually infringing upon or even suspending core liberties and civil rights and using the police as their muscle to enforce these abuses, any sense of trust and respect between them is lost. As such, these laws promote division between police and its citizens that are most likely to be their allies.
Yeah.
That's a major problem.
So division.
Absolutely, that's what they want, right? Division.
Yeah, because if we're unified, then they're in trouble.
Absolutely. Now, taken from huntforliberty.com, red flag law dangers, it says, in most states, family members or law enforcement can request the order from a state court judge to confiscate the firearms of a person whom they believe to be at risk. The exact details vary from state to state. The hearing is ex parte, which means that the at-risk individual has no notice, no representation, and no opportunity to rebut the claims of those who would have his firearms taken. In most cases, the only warning is the knock on the door when law enforcement comes to take your property. You have the only thing you have is when they come to knock on your door. You have nothing else. It's how dangerous. All that dangerous is.
Well, you know what all of this reminds me of is that famous saying that without the Second Amendment, all of our other amendments are basically moot.
Which I'll get into in the near future. It says in this, it says the subject of the red flag order gets his day in court at some later date to plead his case. If the order becomes final, it can last up to 6 months to a year before needing to be renewed. In New Jersey, it is indefinite until the subject can convince a judge that he is no longer a danger. So you have to convince the judge that you are no longer a danger to have your constitutional right to bear arms.
By hearsay from some cooped up individual.
It could be. Many constitutional protections are turned upside down or violated by these laws. The most obvious are, of course, the Second Amendment, which is the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures, shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the event to be searched, and the persons of things to be seized. The Fifth Amendment.
That's a good one.
That's the amendments.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Fifth Amendment, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
Well, you already said it. Like, you are guilty until proven innocent instead of the other way around.
Absolutely. And And this is still for no. This is okay. So okay. So I said okay. The 14th Amendment: no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due processes of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. It is obvious to me that those who want to create red flag laws are really not interested in public safety. They only want another means to confiscate firearms and to create more prohibited persons.
Okay, so how many amendments do these red flag laws violate?
1, 2, 3, 4 of our amendments.
4. Instead of just violating 1, they violate 4.
So the Supreme Court needs to immediately review these gun red flag laws immediately.
They need to be thrown out
immediately. Okay, so now going to 23. Now I'm going to this is taken from rd.com. So this is kind of like the other what they really believe these red flag laws to.
rd.com. What's rd.com?
I think readersdigest.com.
Okay.
They're more on the liberal side, and so what this says
most publications are.
This says 4 things. 1, a concerned party reports a dangerous situation. Okay, so some concerned party can report you're a danger. Okay.
Right.
Number 2, a judge grants a temporary order to remove the firearms. 3, then there is a court hearing, and the gun can be taken away from 1 to 5 years. 4, must pass a background check before getting their firearm back. That just in itself boils my blood.
Right.
Think about that for a second. If you're a conservative and some liberal says, "Oh, this guy's a danger," and they take your guns away, you got to convince a judge to get your gun back. This is a violation of our constitutional rights.
These nutcases could do that because you have an American flag outside of your house,
and you know it's true.
Oh yeah.
So taken from Reader's Digest again, it says, other opponents worry that red flag laws allow people with grudges to lodge complaints against gun owners. However, as Slitchen, I can't say that name, notes, there is a threshold that needs to be met for the ERPO to be granted. So people can't just go and file petitions because they don't like someone. And finally, still others worry that this is a gateway law that would lead to more comprehensive gun control laws nationwide. Wow. So if they pass this, what other laws are going to pass? It's just going to be a gateway for other things to infringe on our rights. Yeah.
Well, that's why they're going after this particular amendment.
So, like I said, just by knowing that stuff, just those 4 things from Reader's Digest, concerned party reports a violation, the judge grants a temporary order to remove the firearms. 3, there's a court hearing and your gun can be taken away from 1 to 5 years. And 4, you must pass a background check before you can get your firearm back. That in itself, you're basically have just gave up our constitutional rights at that point.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm not going to let that happen. Anyway, so now I'm going to the segment of what is the original meaning of the Second Amendment, its meaning and its purpose, okay? So one of them is to keep and bear arms, okay? So Mason wrote, a well-regulated militia composed of a body of the people trained to arms is the proper, natural, and safe defense of a free state. And this is taken from 10thamendmentcenter.com.
Well, I would hope that all of our listeners agree with that.
Absolutely.
Because I certainly do.
The Founding Fathers have just broken away from Great Britain. They understood that the new federal government they were ratifying might one day become just as tyrannical. If it had the authority to control citizens to access to its firearms, that it could disarm them, just as the British attempted to do. This could make any attempts to restore liberties futile. So once they take away your guns, then how are you going to restore your liberties?
Yeah.
You won't be able to, because once they take them away, you have nothing. You have no leverage against the government. They have the guns.
See, it just shows that how ahead of their time they were, because they already predicted what was going to happen in the future of this country, because we're already seeing it now, what we're talking about.
For sure. James Madison, the father of the Constitution, said in 1789 that a well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people trained to arms is the best and most natural defense of a free country. Mm-hmm. Deep.
Yeah, I agree.
It says, no free man shall ever be debarred from the use of arms. That's taken from, that Thomas Jefferson said that.
Well, you wouldn't be free if you were.
Exactly. Taken from James Madison. To disarm the people, that was the best and most effective way to enslave them. That's from George Mason, sorry. And taken from James Madison. Americans have the right and advantage of being armed, unlike the citizens of other countries whose governments are afraid to trust the people with arms.
Right. I mean, what did Hitler do? What did Stalin do? What did Lenin do? What did Pol Pot do? What did Mao Zedong do? Took everybody's guns away from them.
There you go. James Madison said the ultimate authority resides in the people alone. That is the foundation of our country right there. Now, taken from... I want to make sure this is from canitbejustme.substack.com. So what did the founding fathers? I just gotta cite my sources. It says before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they are in almost every kingdom in Europe. The supreme power in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword, because the whole body of the people are armed and constitute a force superior to any bands of regular troops that can be, or any pretense raised in the United States. And that's taken from Noah Webster. So basically it's telling you right there is that the only reason why the government cannot enforce unjust laws is because we are armed.
Yeah.
Because if they start enforcing unjust arms, we have more weapons than them. We could just stop it.
Yeah.
Or if we don't have no weapons, they can enforce unjust laws.
Yeah.
Just imagine these January 6th, this January 6th panel and these woke people controlling us, and we have nothing to stop it. They're just tyranny. It would be pure tyranny.
The country would be on fire.
It would be. Now, taken from theimaginative-conservative.org, it says, the right to bear arms protects every other right, just as you were saying before. Without its preservation, a nation would easily succumb to tyranny. As long as this right is upheld, protected, and exercised lawfully, the torch of liberty may continue to burn. That's pretty deep.
It will.
Absolutely.
I mean, it will. As long as it's the will of the people, it will never be extinguished.
Absolutely. And further in this article, it says, a well-regulated militia is a collection of individuals covenanted together to defend each other. The phrase well-regulated required militia members to remain armed, trained, and vigilant. These members understood at the time to mean all able-bodied male citizens were to be prepared to engage with invaders, including tyrannical government should there be a need arise in order to secure and defend the freedom of the states.
Right.
That is so deep, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Going from the same source, the responsibility and right of the people to bear arms for self-defense are God-given. That's the big thing. The state doesn't give us this. God gives us this.
Well, that's the beauty of it, because if it's God-given, it means it can't be taken away by men.
There you go. Natural rights of individuals. The right to self-defense was not man-invented or government-created. This amendment does not give the people their right to bear arms, but protects against infringement of that right. From the context of the Bill of Rights, and especially in the Fourth and First Amendment, the people refers to the citizenry instead of certain bodies and groups of people. That's deep. It comes from God. It's a God-given right.
These politicians.
These politicians are snakes.
Oh, these bureaucrats, man. There's some sneaky bastards.
All right, this is good. This is the same source. The unqualified phrase shall not be infringed is seen only in the First and Second Amendment within the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment protects the rights to freedom of religion, speech, the press, assembly, and petition. The Second Amendment acts as a protector and enforcer of those rights, so they shall not be infringed.
Enforcer.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
the distinction is important, for if arms meant anything less than weapons of war, the governing powers would have the monopoly of force over the people being inferior in arms, and the country would be at risk of tyranny. So the bottom line, these stupid leftists will say, "Oh, well, you don't need an AK-47, you don't need an AR-15. This is supposed to be for hunting." It's not for hunting. Arms refers to weapons of war.
Yeah.
It doesn't refer to hunting rifles. Right. It's weapons of war. So
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. We're finished.
Well, the way that I see it is what they're planning on doing, and I could be wrong, but this is my take on what we're talking about. Is they go after your AR-15 or they go after some machine gun that you have. I don't know all that much about guns, but they take one away and then they turn around and say, because it's something like only 4% or 5% of people are killed by weapons like that, weapons of quote unquote war, every single year in this country. A mass majority is something like 80 or 85% of people are killed by handguns. So what they do is they come in, they take away whatever it is. They take away your AR-15. And once they get away with that, then they turn around and say, well, the biggest threat that we have is handguns. So we need to take away the handguns because you can hide it on your person, you can hide it in your jacket, your pants, whatever. Then they turn around and they say, okay, we're going to take those away. And then before you know it, they say, well, we're going to take your rifles away because you don't need that for hunting because you can use a bow and arrow to hunt. And there you go. All your guns are gone. It starts with one, and it's like a domino effect. It just keeps trickling down.
Just like the homosexual marriage, the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine, comes from
go.
like radical gender, pedophilia. It keeps on going down and down and down.
It just keeps going and going and going until they have what they want, and we're powerless.
Absolutely. And further from this source, with the Imagine Conservative, this is a great article, by the way. It's like I'm reading word for word because it's such a beautiful article. It says, when King George III assumed that the right of self-defense originated in the government, he instituted standing armies without the consent of the people. This was seen as a tyrannical act that overlooked and overstepped the ultimate authority of the people to self-defense.
It is.
As tensions grew between the 13 American colonies of the British government, British soldiers marched into Lexington and Concord on the night of April 18, 1775, to seize the firearms and ammunition of the colonists. The colonists took decisive action to protect their unalienable rights, resist government overreach, and restore law, liberty, and order. Many great and valiant men died for this right to keep and bear arms in the bloody battles fought at Lexington and Concord. They understood that weapons of war are vital for the preservation of liberty. Deep.
Yeah.
It says further, citizens cannot and should not rely on the government to protect them from such violence. The government cannot keep all of its citizens safe. One's safety has always ultimately been one's own responsibility. Individuals have the natural right to defend themselves. Guns cannot be uninvented. Even if guns were banned, those who wish to have guns and who will disregard the laws will have guns, while law-abiding citizens would be prevented from arming themselves against such criminals.
So there you go. So they take our guns away, and who has the guns? The government and the criminals.
Absolutely. When governments pass gun control laws that limit citizens' ability to adequately defend themselves, the people are forced to rely on the police for protection. This transfer of responsibility and right of self-defense from the individual to the government has tragic effects, as seen in the case of Warren versus District of Columbia in 1981, when a woman was gang raped for 14 hours after she had twice called the police, who never arrived. This is not to point the fingers at the police. Rather, this example demonstrates the importance of personal self-defense and the danger of relying on others for protection. Deep.
Well, to any woman out there, a gun makes you more equal to men or equal to anybody in society than any feminist movement ever would.
Absolutely.
I mean, think about that. You have a gun, and you think a guy's going to be able to get a hold of you or rape you or whatever? No, you have a gun and you just shoot the guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And which I agree with. Shoot him.
Shoot him. If they're trying to rape you, shoot them.
If they're trying to do any kind of bodily harm to you, you shoot them.
If you fear of your life or great bodily harm, you shoot.
Yeah.
Period. That's the law.
Yeah.
So, and like to end it, this article is so great, by the way. I just love this article. This is taken from Obelia Chan, I think this one. The right to bear arms protects every other right. Unarmed people are easier to control, manipulate, and oppress. The founders understood the importance of the right to keep and bear arms as demonstrated by biblical principles, historical examples, and the English common law. Without the preservation of this right, a nation would easily succumb to tyranny. As long as this right is upheld, protected, and exercised lawfully, the torch of liberty may continue to burn. And that's taken from Odelia Chan 3. I'm sorry.
See, all of that's deep.
All of that is deep.
Yeah, all of
That's a new understanding. I never had that whole understanding until I did the research.
Well, I didn't realize that these red flag laws were violating that many constitutional rights.
It is dangerous. It sounds good on paper, but it's like...
To me, it never sounded good, because when you use the term red flag, what does that even mean?
Red flag is the commie flag. Anyway, the red flag is communist.
Well, I'm colorblind, so I do one color that I can see is red, so I do like it. But
can't see the communists coming.
Yeah.
The British flag was part red too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a deep story, but anyway. So that's my take. What I want to end with, the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is not for hunting, like these stupid leftists like Joe Biden and AOC says. It is not for hunting. It is for two things: to protect us from government tyranny and to protect us from foreign invaders. Period. Period.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming that most of our dear listeners, they don't agree with what these lefty, crazy Democrats think. Anything that AOC has to say, do the opposite.
Absolutely. Most of the time, do the opposite.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you know their intention. They'll say, they think that you'll take guns away and we'll be singing Kumbaya and sitting around a campfire playing music and smoking grass. I mean, that's not what's going to happen.
No.
Literally.
You know, it's funny, like in these Democrat-controlled cities, they're sending unarmed ambassadors to stop crime. Unarmed ambassadors.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, why don't you bring the body bags with them? Because that's where they're gonna end up is in body bags.
Yeah, and they don't realize that if they start coming and infringe on everything that Chris was just reading, if they come and try to take your guns, that's what's going to happen also.
I mean, the bottom line is, can you imagine the SWAT team coming to take guns away from American citizens? Can you just imagine that? We're going to hate the police. If that happens, there's going to be a major divide between us and the police.
Yeah, because a whole separate conversation that we could do research and talk about this, is they don't want to talk about the real problem with these people shooting and these mass shootings. It has nothing to do with guns. It has to do with mental illness. But notice that they're going after guns and then they're not going after Big Pharma. They're not going after the fact that we in the United States, I think we're number one in the country the number one country in the world for taking antidepressants.
Wow, number one.
We're number one. I know that for a fact. We're number one. But yet they don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about how guns are so evil. And in reality, they're not so evil. I mean, my whole life I grew up, my father, my stepfather, my uncles, everybody had a gun, and they've never been a problem, ever. I remember seeing my stepdad. My stepdad is essentially my father, and watching him clean his guns and take care of his guns. I seen his guns more as a tool than anything else.
So that's the bottom line. So let's just stop this leftist assault. And I call upon the Supreme Court of the United States to review these gun red flag laws immediately and immediately overturn this, and for every state to do everything they can to fight against these gun red flag laws. Period. Fight against it as much as possible. And we should arm this. Teachers should be armed. Schools should not be gun-free zones. The teachers should be armed. Some teachers in that building should be armed. Not every teacher, but some teachers should be armed.
Well, not even necessarily. Let's just say not teachers, but you have a security guard or you have someone there protecting the kids, because this is why these insane people, these psychopaths, are preying on these schools, because they know that they can walk in and there's no resistance.
There's no resistance. So if they know that there's other guns in there, the only thing that's going to stop somebody from committing a crime is the fact that they can be killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only thing. Once somebody's crazy enough to start to shoot up a school, the only thing that's going to stop them is the fear of their life being taken from by somebody else.
Absolutely.
There's no other thing that's going to stop them. They've went beyond conscious at that point. They're conscious. They obviously don't care about their conscience. They're going to go do it anyway. The only thing that's going to stop them is force.
Yeah. Yeah.
The threat of force.
Well, think about it. Try and put wrap your mind around being a criminal and how a criminal thinks. Like, even as simply as breaking into somebody's house. Are you going to break into somebody's house where you know damn well that they are fully armed to the teeth? Or are you going to break into a house where you know damn well that they have, I hate to say it, but they have Black Lives Matter and rainbow flags on their house? You're probably not going to get much resistance. Yes. I know I shouldn't poke fun at that, but it's true. Yeah. It really is true. If you know that they're a raging liberal, they probably hate guns, and they're prey item number one.
You see, like when it comes to my view on guns, like a lot of people are obsessed with guns. They they go and shoot their guns everywhere. My gun is the guns that my view of guns is that it's just a tool. It's a tool,
how I see it.
And that if somebody comes and tries to kill me or do me great bodily harm, that's my tool to use to stop that threat.
Yeah,
it's nothing more than that. That's all I use. That's all that I view guns. I'm not one of these gun crazy people that will go buy every gun and go shooting every single weekend and live my whole life abroad. I'm not into that crap. It's a tool to use to stop for self-defense, and that's all it is. Period.
Yeah.
So I'm against all that. Like I said, if you want to be on guns, that's fine. I'm saying that's not me. I'm not the person that's going to go crazy about guns. You know what I'm saying? But guns is just a tool. Period.
Well, I mean, that's how I see it.
So that's our views on the Second Amendment. That is the view. That is the truth. That is not my view. That is the truth.
Yeah, I mean, like think about it. Like it's estimated something like 300 million guns in the United States, and there's probably trillions of rounds of ammunition. And if there was a real problem with people toting guns around in this country, we would know.
For sure.
You'd have people, and just like you said, you have like these cities that have these strict gun laws, and it looks like the 4th of July. These people are just firing at each other, and this is gang-related stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
This isn't law-abiding citizens. We're just like, we're both saying that if you have a gun, it's there for your protection. You're not running around. It reminds me of that Simpsons episode where Homer's walking around just shooting the lights out and shooting all of his, because he's he's irresponsible with the gun.
Yeah.
He thinks the NRA means like nachos, rifles, and alcohol, or whatever. But most Americans aren't like that. And taking the right away from law-abiding citizens is just wrong, and it's unconstitutional.
What's crazy about these stupid leftists is that these gang members are committing all this gun violence. The actual gang members in these inner city ghettos are committing all this gun violence. And what is their knee-jerk reaction? To take away guns from law-abiding citizens, the ones that are not doing this gun violence to begin with, which is crazy. And the fact is that these stupid leftist politicians they want to take away people's right to have a concealed carry permit.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that you want a person that is in fear of their safety, they go lawfully to get a concealed weapons permit, they go to the class, they get licensed, and you want to take that right away from them so they can't protect themselves?
Right.
You must be out of your freaking mind.
Well, what I don't understand is
these leftists are freaking crazy.
Well, like we've talked about before, the leftists that follow the narrative are crazy. The leftists that control the narrative, they may be evil, but they're smart, vindictive people. They know what they're doing, because they want to push these extreme, strict background laws on retaining a gun, but then they don't want voter ID when you vote.
It's hypocrisy.
I mean, how? Yeah, it's like
so
how does that work? That's pure. That is like the true form of hypocrisy. Like, wait, there shouldn't be double standards for everything. There should be the same standard for everything that we do in this country.
And these stupid leftists, they spend thousands and thousands of dollars to have guards who have guns to protect them. Thousands of our taxpayer dollars to protect them, and they're with guns. But they don't. They are the ones that are protected by guns, but they want to deprive you from being protected by guns.
Well, that was like after the quote unquote the insurrection of January 6th, and then they tell you we don't need walls, we don't need borders, we don't need guns. And then after that, they have armed guards and they have fences around the Capitol building.
Bullcrap. These leftists are the most hypocritical pieces of trash on this earth.
They all live in they're all white gated communities. Like I probably mentioned this before. You're a UPS carrier or FedEx or something, and that you have to show your ID before you're even permitted onto their property, into their area, into their gated community. Yeah, where they tell us that we need to get along, and we can't be armed, and we can't protect our own properties, but they can protect theirs.
It is absolutely insane. We're going to call these hypocrites for that they are. But anyway, that's what I have for the gun red flag laws. I would say oppose it by any means necessary. I would resist. I would implore our listeners to vote. Anyone that's not registered, go register. When you see these red flag laws, when you see these unconstitutional laws trying to be passed on ballots, vote against them. Completely vote against them, because every day they're stripping our rights away, and this is their sole intention. It's just a little chisel and a hammer, and they just keep chiseling away until we have no rights at all. It is dangerous. Just imagine that. But anyway, just imagine the SWAT team come and take Americans' guns away. Just think about that for a second, okay? There'll be a lot of blood, which is unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Let's not get there. Let's oppose it. And thank you for listening to our season 1. Season 1 is done. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, dear listeners. And we'll talk to you for the next one. Thank you so much.